Before we talk about the causes of panic attacks and symptoms you might experience, I first want to say that the fact that you're even familiar with the term panic attack is a really good thing. There was probably a time that you weren't. Uh, I personally was experiencing panic disorder for over a year and had spent thousands of dollars on therapy before I knew what was going on with me. During that time, I really thought I was going crazy. I'd have panic attacks while I was driving, while I was lying in bed, standing in lines, at movies, anywhere and anytime I could not escape them. And I don't think I could ever adequately describe that time of my life to a person that hasn't experienced panic attacks, other than by saying to imagine your version of hell or a place of constant fear and anxiety and mental suffering. I mean, thinking that you're losing your mind in itself is a pretty terrifying thing. Um, Other anxiety symptoms that I experienced personally during that time were the racing heartbeat, chest pains, tension headaches, dizziness, diarrhea, constant fear of health problems, fatigue, paranoia, constant sweaty palms, depersonalization, which I've made another video about, um, and of course the panic attacks themselves. Panic attacks, in a very simplified sense, I think can best be described as an intense onset of dread and intense fear with an overwhelming sense that something terrible is about to happen. Like you might be having a heart attack or having a mental breakdown, uh, or maybe you feel like you're about to die or lose your mind. However, in terms of my overall anxiety experience, panic attacks actually ended up being a good thing in a way, uh, because it's what prompted me to figure out what was going on. They couldn't be ignored. It got to the point that I couldn't do anything else in my life. I didn't feel like I wanted to go on living with that kind of feeling with me. So it made it an absolute necessity that I figure out what the situation was and resolve it. And the good news is that once I discovered what was going on, what a panic attack was, and why it occurred, it didn't take me too long to figure out a way to reverse the phenomenon. And that's what I want to share with you here. So, to start out, knowing why a panic attack occurs will really help with understanding the solution. So, as a panic attack sufferer, I think I can safely speculate that you, like I did, have a tendency to worry about things, often expecting the worst. Kind of like negative thinking is your default manner of thinking. You're probably more likely to worry about bad things happening than to expect good things. And to a certain degree, that's actually a good thing. It's kind of a survival instinct to worry, keep aware of danger and problems. But it's gone overboard if you're experiencing anxiety and panic attacks. So those, what I'll call negative thoughts, could really be revolving around anything. Social situations, financial issues, health issues, future events, really anything. I shouldn't even mention examples because every person is unique and life is just full of things that have the potential of being worried about. So for a person that has a tendency toward that manner of thinking, it's really not hard to fill a good part of your day, or even your entire day, with worries and fears. Uh, anyway, when that is the default manner of thinking in your life, what happens during a panic attack is that all those fears and worries just start lingering in your mind, even when you're not consciously or directly thinking about them. Some psychologists might say that the fears are lingering in your subconscious mind. So what happens during a panic attack is that your body starts to react to those fears in your mind as if they're real, just like physical danger. And the way it does this is by releasing stress hormones like adrenaline into your system. Adrenaline, if you don't know, is the fight or flight hormone that puts your body into a really heightened state of alertness. which is also characterized by a sense of fear and anxiety or nervousness. The problem is, this reaction is occurring without the presence of any physical danger. I mean, if you could see that a bear was attacking you, or that you were about to get hit by a car, the adrenaline feeling would be totally normal. And you wouldn't be thinking that the feeling was strange at all. But without that visual danger in front of you, you don't consciously understand what that feeling is. So what happens is you get fearful of that sensation itself. Well, fear of that sensation just creates more adrenaline, which just adds to the sensation. Then you become more fearful because there's more sensation. Then as you're more fearful, more adrenaline, more sensation, more fear. And this spiral just keeps intensifying, and it doesn't take long before you're in a full-blown panic attack. So that in simple terms is what causes a panic attack. And yes, it is terrifying. But the good news is that reversing the condition is not a very complicated process. And better yet, it's probably going to do a lot more good for your life than to just stop panic attacks. Now, from what I've described here, you might be thinking that I'm just going to talk about positive thinking. But it's really not that simple. As a panic disorder sufferer myself, I know from experience you can't just start thinking positive thoughts and hope that panic attacks will stop. In fact, that kind of approach can actually make things worse, which you may have discovered already. So if what I've described so far rings a bell with you, what I've described about panic attack causes and symptoms, if it sounds familiar at all, and if you'd like to continue, you can go on to my next video, which I'll title something like How to Stop Panic Attacks. If you don't see the link here, I'll post it along with my other videos at mc2method.com/panic attacks. Thank you for watching.